You know this energy. It's the force you feel in the morning, right after you wake up. A clarity in your mind, a silent fire in your chest, a sense of power, of readiness. This is your life force in its purest, unadulterated state. It's the energy of an empire builder, a creator, a leader of men. It is your sexual energy, the raw material of your ambition. In those brief moments of clarity, the promise you make to yourself feels unbreakable. Today, I advance. Today, I build. Today, nothing stops me. But then, the modern world finds you. It's not a frontal assault. It's an infiltration. A whisper that slides in during the first moment of boredom, the first break from work. It starts with an image on your feed, a video suggestion, an ad engineered to hook your most primal instinct. And the thought plants itself like a poison. Just one look, just to take the edge off. No one has to know. The internal negotiation is a sham, and you know it. The king on your throne is already gagged. Your hand moves on its own, opening the incognito window, and the ritual of self-sabotage begins. Let's not sugarcoat this. What happens next is a hemorrhage of your life force. Every video, every image, every new tab is an open wound where your power drains away. You enter a trance, scrolling for hours, chasing a peak of pleasure that's always out of reach, because it wasn't designed to satisfy, only to addict. You're surrendering your attention, your imagination, and most importantly, your creative energy. 2 pixelated shadows on a screen. And then, the final act, the release. A 3-second spasm of pleasure, followed by an emptiness that lasts the rest of the day. It's in the silence that follows that the true devastation is revealed. The poster fog descends on your mind. That fire in your chest, extinguished. That clarity, replaced by a dull haze. That important project in front of you now seems gray, uninteresting, a burden too heavy to lift. The idea of hitting the gym, of pushing your physical limits, sounds like torture. Your courage to start a difficult conversation, to look a real woman in the eyes, to lead with authority. All of it was sacrificed on the altar of instant gratification. You didn't just lose time, you lost energy. The very energy you needed to build your life was spent fueling an empty fantasy. And this is the cycle that silently destroys men. They wonder why they procrastinate, why they lack drive, why their relationships feel shallow, why they feel a chronic anxiety and a depression that has no name. The answer isn't in their goals or their work routine. It's in how they rather, how they squander their most primary source of power. The brutal truth is this: your sexual energy is being stolen, and you've been conditioned to call this theft pleasure. They sold you the poison and called it the cure. They told you that porn, compulsive masturbation, and passive consumption of nudity were harmless ways to relieve stress, when in reality, they are the root cause of your weakness. They keep you in a state of permanent energy deficit, making you docile, reactive, and easy to control. I've walked through this desert. I have felt what it's like to trade real power for the promise of a false pleasure. I felt my ambition dissolve in that fog and watched my potential get drained, click by click. But I also discovered that this hemorrhage can be stopped, that this energy can be reclaimed, redirected, and used to forge a reality your addicted self can't even imagine. This video isn't about guilt or shame. It's about clarity and power. We're not here to demonize sex, but to rescue your sacred energy from the claws of the distraction industry. The goal isn't to become less of a man, but to become dangerously focused, present, and potent. It's about reconnecting your sexual energy to your life's mission, because a man who controls this force controls his destiny. Stay with me, because the deprogramming starts now. If you recognized yourself in the cycle I just described in the hemorrhage of power and the fog of regret, the first truth you need to absorb is this: You're not losing this battle because you are weak. You are losing a war that was declared on your mind without your consent. You need to understand that your personal failure to stay focused is the success of a multi-billion-dollar business. Your weakness is their commodity. Welcome to the real battlefield of the 21st century. It's not a field of dirt and trenches. It's the silent, invisible territory of your consciousness. Attention specifically focused. Masculine attention's the most valuable natural resource on the planet. It's the new oil. And right now, corporations, software engineers, and data scientists are in an arms race to extract every last drop of it from you. They've tested every weapon, notifications, outrage bait, variable rewards, but they discovered that no weapon is as effective, as cheap, and as universally devastating as mass sexualization. Why? For three simple, brutal reasons. First, it bypasses the king. Sexual desire speaks directly to the oldest, most primitive part of your brain, the beast. Your logic, your willpower, your long-term goals are simply steamrolled by an instinct millions of years old. There is no rational defense against an attack designed to hit your subconscious. Second, the supply is infinite and the cost is zero. They can offer you a banquet of nudity and stimulation 24/7, delivered straight to your pocket with no production cost. It's the perfect weapon for a war of attrition. They never run out of ammo, while your life force is finite. And third, and most perverse of all, the weapon itself creates the need for more of it. The shame and emptiness you feel after wasting your sexual energy leave you more vulnerable, more anxious, and more likely to seek ... What? A quick fix. Another dopamine hit. And the cycle restarts, digging you deeper each time. But here is the most important part you need to understand about the goal of this war. The system doesn't want to destroy you. A destroyed man, who's lost his job and his ability to function, cannot consume, cannot click on ads, cannot generate data. The system's goal is not your destruction. It is your pacification. They don't want a corpse. They want a docile soldier. They want to drain just enough of your sexual energy, your creative force, so that you no longer have the ambition to build your own empire. Just enough so you don't have the courage to question the status quo. Just enough that you're content to be a battery, working Monday to Friday to power the machine and seeking relief in empty pleasures on the weekend. A man who exhausts his power on digital fantasies doesn't have the energy to negotiate a raise, to start a business, to lead his family, to transform his reality. He becomes a perfectly predictable and manageable citizen and consumer. He is a lion who has been neutered and put on a golden leash of comfort and instant gratification. This engineering is meticulous. Video thumbnails are A/B tested to see which female image gets more clicks. Social media algorithms learn your exact trigger and feed you more of it. Not to make you happy, but to keep you on the platform for another 15 seconds. Every swipe, every autoplay, every piece of suggested content is a tactical maneuver in this war for your mind. So the next time you find yourself in that loop, sinking into a vortex of porn and waste, remember this: you aren't just fighting a bad habit. You are on the front lines of an invisible war. You are fighting against the most sophisticated system of human energy extraction ever created in history. And the first step to winning any war is to recognize you are in one. It's to look at the screen no longer as a source of pleasure, but as a minefield. Now that you know the battlefield and the enemy's weapon, it's time to understand exactly how that weapon works inside your own biology. The information I'm sharing here isn't for everyone. It's for the men who feel they are in a fight for their very soul and refuse to lose. If this call resonates with you, if you feel that this is your fight, consider subscribing. Every subscription strengthens our front line and ensures this message reaches other men who are still fighting alone in the dark. Join us. Now, let's understand the biology of the trap. You now understand the battlefield. You recognize the weapon pointed at you. But to disarm the enemy, you need to understand exactly how their ammunition works. The war for your mind isn't fought with bullets, but with biochemistry, and the central molecule in this war has a name: dopamine. You've heard of it, probably in the wrong way. Dopamine is not the molecule of pleasure. It is the molecule of motivation, of the pursuit of desire. Think of your ancestors. Dopamine was the engine that drove them out of the cave to hunt, even when hungry and afraid. It was what motivated them to cross deserts in search of new territory. It gave them the courage to fight for a partner and ensure the survival of the species. In all these cases, the reward was uncertain and the effort immense. Dopamine was the force that said, "Keep going. The reward is worth the struggle." This is the natural, sacred circuit of masculine drive. What modern systemic engineering has done is the greatest heist in the history of human biology. It hacked this circuit. It discovered a way to give you the dopamine peak of victory without the need for the battle. And online pornography is the most perfect tool ever invented for this purpose. When your ancestors saw a potential mate, his brain released a pulse of dopamine. But it was a single mate, and accessing her required courage, status, competition, a tremendous real-world effort. When you open an incognito tab today, your brain doesn't see pixels. It sees what it has been programmed for millions of years to interpret as the greatest reproductive reward imaginable: an infinite supply of new, available sexual partners with zero social risk and zero requirement of effort. This is what scientists call a supernormal stimulus. It's an artificial trigger so intense that your primitive brain has no defense against it. It's like comparing a piece of fruit to refined cocaine. Both activate the reward system, but the intensity of the artificial stimulus is on another order of magnitude. And here, the hijacking begins. Every time you expose yourself to this banquet of stimuli, your brain is flooded with an amount of dopamine that the real world simply cannot match. What happens next is a defense mechanism. Your brain starts to reduce the number of dopamine receptors to avoid burning out from this overstimulation. This is why, after a few months or years in this cycle, normal things lose their color. Reading a book, boring. Having a deep conversation, tiring. Working on your project for hours, impossible. Your brain has been conditioned to such a high level of stimulus that real life becomes gray and dull. You develop a tolerance to reality. Worse, every session of porn and masturbation strengthens a specific neural pathway in your brain. Imagine a river carving a valley in the earth. Every time water flows through it, the valley gets deeper, making it easier for the next rainfall to follow the same path. Every time you respond to stress, boredom, or loneliness with porn, you deepen that neural valley until it becomes the default path where all your mental energy flows. This is the invisible prison. You are no longer choosing, you are simply following the neural path of least resistance that you yourself helped to carve. You become a slave to a biochemical circuit that was installed and reinforced by a system designed for that exact purpose. Your lack of motivation isn't laziness. It is the mathematical result of a deregulated dopamine system. Your inability to connect deeply in a relationship isn't a lack of love. It's the consequence of a brain that has been trained to prefer pixelated novelty over real intimacy. The hemorrhage of power you feel isn't just a feeling. It's a biochemical fact. You are at war with an enemy that has turned your own biology into a weapon against you. But the good news is that what has been programmed can be deprogrammed. The brain is plastic. Rivers can be rerouted. But for that, you must first understand who drew the map of this maze. Before we travel back in time to meet the architect of this prison, let's stay here for a moment. What I've just described, the fading color of real life, the difficulty in motivating yourself for things that used to matter, the feeling that reality is never stimulating enough, isn't just a theory. For many of us, it is a daily experience. So I ask you, man to man, Which symptom of this dopamine deregulation do you feel most in your life today? Is it chronic procrastination? The difficulty connecting in your relationships? Or maybe it's that mental fog, that lack of interest that seems to hang over everything. No need for intimate details, just the recognition. Share your experience in the comments if you feel comfortable. You will quickly realize, by reading the responses, that you are not alone in this battle. Far from it. Your insight might be the validation another warrior needs to understand that his fight is real and shared. You feel the effects of your hijacked biology. You see the outlines of the invisible war being waged for your attention. But to truly understand the architecture of your prison, you need to know it wasn't built yesterday. The design is old, and there was a chief architect. If your brain is the maze and dopamine is the conditioned path, we need to meet the man who drew the original blueprint in the early 20th century. His name was Edward Bernays. That name might mean nothing to you, but his ideas govern the world you live in. And Bernays had a secret advantage, a weapon no one else possessed. He was Sigmund Freud's nephew, while his uncle, Freud, was in Vienna, exploring the dark, turbulent depths of the human unconscious, the repressed desires, the sexual impulses, the irrational forces that truly drive people. Bernays was in New York thinking something far more pragmatic. How can I use this to sell things? Bernays was the first to understand and apply on a mass scale the dangerous truth. His uncle revealed to the world, human beings are not rational creatures. We are driven by primitive emotions and desires we barely understand, and we then use logic merely to justify the decisions our unconscious has already made. Before Bernays, advertising was simple, almost naive. An ad would say, "Buy our car, it's durable and efficient." It appealed to your needs and your reason. After Bernays, everything changed. He realized he didn't need to sell a product. He needed to sell a feeling. He needed to link a product to an unconscious desire, in what, as his uncle Freud had pointed out, was the most powerful, most universal, and most easily exploitable desire of all. Sexual desire, the libido, the need to be seen, to be desired, to signal reproductive status. Advertising stopped saying "buy our car because it's good" and started whispering "buy our car and women will desire you. You will be powerful. You will be free." The car was no longer a means of transport. It became a phallic symbol of power. This was the revolution. Sex was uncoupled from the act of intimacy and transformed into the most powerful tool of manipulation in the history of capitalism. It started selling cigarettes to women by associating them with freedom and phallic power. It started selling everything: soft drinks, clothes, perfumes, not for what the products were, but for the promise of what they would make you feel. A promise that always poked the same primal nerve. Now, fast forward 100 years. Take Bernays' principles and give them the processing power of artificial intelligence. Give them the ubiquity of smartphones. Give them the instant feedback of billions of data points on what captures human attention. What do you have? You have the world you live in today. The algorithms of Instagram, TikTok, and porn sites are, in essence, Edward Bernays on an amphetamine scale. They no longer need to create a single ad for 1 million people. They create 1 million personalized ads, one for each person. They learn with surgical precision what your specific trigger is, what kind of image, what subtle suggestion makes your dopamine spike, and they feed you an infinite diet of it. You're no longer fighting a billboard on the street. You are fighting a supercomputer whose sole function is to understand your sexual and unconscious vulnerabilities better than you do, so it can sell your attention to the next advertiser. The sexualization of your mind was not an accident. It was the result of a century of refining psychological control techniques. You are living at the apex of Bernays' dream, a world where men are guided not by their purpose or their reason, but by desires that were planted and cultivated by external forces. but recognizing the architecture of the prison is the first and most crucial step to planning the escape. Now that you know the battlefield, the biological weapon, and the original architect, we can, at last, begin to forge the tools of your liberation. I know, this is a deep rabbit hole, connecting these dots from the biology in your brain to the history of a century ago was what transforms the confusion of the daily struggle into strategic clarity. If that clarity is starting to form for you, if the puzzle pieces of your own distraction are finally clicking into place, then hitting the like button on this video is the best signal that this message is hitting its mark. It's the silent feedback that shows us we're on the right track. With that done, let's get to the forge. We have dissected the anatomy of your prison. We've seen the battlefield, the biochemical weapon, and the original architect. But a diagnosis, no matter how precise, does not cure the disease. It only points the way to the treatment. What follows is the treatment. It is the battle plan. It is the deprogramming manual. It is not easy. It is not quick. But it is the only path to sovereignty. It is based on 3 fundamental pillars: defense, training, and direction. Let's begin with the first. Pillar 1, defense. Imagine your mind as a fertile piece of land, a garden. For years, perhaps decades, you have allowed the system, the algorithms, the advertising, the culture of instant gratification to toss seeds of weeds over the wall. Seeds of lust, comparison, outrage, and superficiality. Without realizing it, you watered these seeds every day with your attention. And now you look at your garden and wonder why nothing good grows there. You wonder why you can't cultivate peace, focus, or depth. The answer is obvious. The weeds have choked everything out. They have stolen the sunlight, the soil's nutrients, and the water of your willpower. The first and most crucial law of gardening is this: you cannot grow flowers while you continue to feed the weeds. The first act of a master gardener is not planting, it is clearing the land and building a fence. This is your defense phase. This is about ruthless border control. Your immediate mission is a 3-step action plan. Step 1, the brutal audit. The cleanup begins with clarity. Today, not tomorrow. You will conduct an honest audit of all the seeds you allow into your mental garden. Open your Instagram, your TikTok, your X, scroll the feed for 10 minutes. For each post, ask, is this making me a stronger, smarter, more focused man? Or is it just activating my lower instincts, making me feel envy, anger, or empty desire? Be a merciless judge. The overwhelming majority of the content you consume is mental junk food, designed to hijack your dopamine. Recognize it. Next, look at your YouTube subscriptions, your podcasts, your newsletters. Which are life's teachers and which are the peddlers of cheap entertainment? Which deliver wisdom and which just deliver stimulus? And then, look at the WhatsApp and Discord groups you're in. Are they for growth and real connection, or for gossip, memes, and sharing content that drains your energy? Step 2, the Great Purge. Now, the part that requires courage. Based on your audit, you will execute a purge. The unfollow, unsubscribe, mute, and leave group buttons will be your best friends. When in doubt, cut it out. If a piece of content is not actively contributing to your mission and well-being, it is actively working against you. There is no neutrality on the battlefield of attention. This isn't about isolating yourself from the world. It's about ceasing to be a dumpster for other people's informational garbage. It is an act of self. You are declaring that your mental garden is sacred ground, and not everyone gets permission to plant their dot. Step 3, conscious replacement. A cleared garden cannot remain empty, or the weeds will grow back. You must actively plant the seeds you wish to cultivate. For every superficial account you removed, find and follow one that represents the man you want to become. Follow entrepreneurs, historians, philosophers, artists, teachers, and thinkers who share the process, not just the result. Unsubscribe from 5 entertainment channels and subscribe to 5 documentary or skill-building channels. Delete the news apps that thrive on outrage and choose 1 or 2 serious sources of information to read once a day. At first, this will be uncomfortable. Your brain, addicted to quick stimuli, will feel boredom like a physical pain. Endure this withdrawal. Boredom is the sound of your garden finally breathing. It is in this silence that the soil begins to heal, preparing itself for true cultivation, which begins with internal training. Pillar 2. Training. Clearing the garden and building a fence is essential defense. But it doesn't solve the problem of what's already inside the garden. Your own impulses, your own conditioned thoughts. This force is like a wild horse. It is pure power, energy, and vitality. But without a trained rider, it runs wild, trampling the flowers, breaking the fence, and dragging you into the abyss. The modern man was never taught how to ride. He lets the horse's limbic system, his primal desires, go wherever it wants, and then wonders why his life is chaos. The goal, understand this well, is not to kill the horse. A man without this energy is a dead man. The goal is to become the master rider. It is to hold the reins firmly and transform that raw power into directed movement. This pillar is about training. It is about forging the internal strength so that even when temptation arises, you are the one who decides. The tool for taming the wild horse is ancient, simple, and brutally effective. Meditation. Forget any image of levitating monks. Think of meditation for what it truly is. Strength training for the most important and atrophied muscle you possess, the muscle of your focus and presence. It is in mental silence that the warrior prepares for the noise of battle. Start with just 5 minutes a day. Do not negotiate. 5 minutes of silence in a world that screams is already a revolutionary act. Use a timer. Sit in a chair with a straight spine, feet on the floor, hands on your knees. A posture of dignity. You are the king preparing to rule his domain. Close your eyes and bring your full attention to a single point. The air entering and exiting your nostrils. Feel the temperature, the rhythm. This is your anchor. These are the reins of the horse. Inevitably, within seconds, the horse will bolt. Your mind will offer you thoughts, worries, memories, and, of course, sexual fantasies and impulses. It will try to drag you away from the now. Here is the exercise. The exact moment you realize your mind has wandered, you have already won the rep. That moment of I'm thinking about something else, is the bicep curl for your awareness. Without anger, without frustration, without judging yourself for getting distracted. You gently but firmly guide your attention back to your anchor, the breath. That's it. The training isn't not thinking. It is the continuous act of noticing the distraction and returning to focus. Each return is a repetition that strengthens the rider. At first, you'll do this 50 times in 5 minutes. Over time, your mind will quiet down. This skill you train in silence is your secret weapon in daily life. When the trigger image appears on your feed, you will notice it instead of being instantly hijacked. When the urge to open the incognito tab arises, there will be a 1-second space between the impulse and your hand moving. In that space lies your freedom. In that space, the rider decides, and with a tamed horse, you can go anywhere. But this leads us to the final, most important question. Pillar 3. Direction. A clean and protected garden is peaceful. A tamed and strong horse is powerful. But a skilled rider on a strong horse, standing still in a clean garden with nowhere to go, will eventually get bored. And boredom is the devil's playground. You can have the best defenses and the best training, but if you do not have a direction, a destination, a why, your energy will have nowhere to flow. An energy that is not used to build is invariably used to destroy. Imagine yourself as a warship, sturdy, powerful, well-trained, but without a map and a compass. You are just a vessel adrift in the ocean. You will be carried by the currents of culture, the tides of others' opinions, and the storms of your own undirected impulses. The modern man is adrift, and the system is more than happy to offer him false harbors. The chase for likes, the race for status, the consumption of entertainment. Purpose becomes the escape from pain, not the pursuit of glory. This pillar is about forging your compass. It is about defining your North Star, because a man with a clear why can bear almost any how. The temptation of a 3-second pleasure becomes insignificant when compared to the vision of a 30-year legacy. Finding your purpose is not like choosing an item from a menu. It's like an archaeological dig to uncover something that is already buried within you. It requires silence, effort, and brutal honesty. Take out a pen and paper. Turn everything off. Spend time with these questions. Your answers are your treasure map. What fills you with a righteous anger? Anger is not negative. Often, it points to an injustice you were born to correct. Your mission may be hidden in what you cannot stand to see in the world. What would you be willing to suffer for? Success is a mirage. What defines a man is the kind of pain he is willing to voluntarily endure. The pain of the gym, the pain of disciplined study, the pain of entrepreneurial risk. Your purpose lies where your noble suffering resides, on your deathbed at 90 years old. What would be the greater regret? Having tried to build your dream and failed, or never having tried at all? This question destroys fear and reveals what your soul truly craves. After reflecting, synthesize your answers onto a single page. A mission statement. It doesn't have to be perfect, just true. It can be a sentence, a paragraph, a list of values. This document becomes your compass. Print it out, put it on your wall, read it every single morning. When the winds of temptation blow, when the currents of distraction try to pull you away, you will look at it and remember your destination. A man with a purpose doesn't need to fight his sexual energy. He uses it. It becomes the wind in his sails, driving his ship with relentless force toward his true north. He is no longer adrift. He is navigating. We have reached the end of this map. We have walked the trenches of the war for your mind, dissected the biochemistry of your prison, and finally, forged the 3 pillars of your liberation: defense, training, and direction. The information has been delivered. The tools are in your hands. And now, you find yourself at a crossroads, with a choice that only you can make. On one side is the wide, easy path. The path of remaining raw material, allowing your most potent energy to be passively drained, to fuel a system that offers you empty pleasures in exchange for your sovereignty. On the other is the narrow, steep trail. The path that sees this same sexual energy not as a problem to be suppressed, but as the sacred lead, the raw material for the great work of your life. It is the path that demands presence, discipline, and above all, an unshakable purpose. Until today, you might not have known this choice existed. Now you know. Ignorance is no longer a shield. The responsibility is now yours. And this transformation is exactly what our work here at Neuro Alchemy is all about. Our mission is to merge modern neuroscience to understand the hardware of our brain and the mechanics of addiction with the timeless wisdom of alchemy, to execute the software of our self-transformation. If you refuse to be just a product, and are ready to become the architect of your own mind, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and join our community of men who are rediscovering their inner fire. Thank you for your deep attention and for the courage to look within. This conversation is just the beginning. I'll see you in the next video.